What if the son you poured your heart and millions into turned your life into a living nightmare just to keep his lavish empire glowing? Imagine this: a father, betrayed by his own blood, watching his fortune tens of millions stolen. His name smeared across Boise's headlines, all because he dared to say enough. The pain cuts deeper than any blade, each lie a fresh wound. But what happens when he rises to fight back? Welcome to RevengeX, where we unravel a tale of greed, deceit, and a father's unyielding stand against those he loved most. Will justice triumph, or will betrayal bury him? Hit subscribe, smash that like, and share your thoughts below. This story will grip your soul and leave you questioning everything. Let's dive in. Welcome to RevengeX, where electrifying stories of betrayal and triumph set your soul ablaze. We're thrilled to have you join our community of viewers who celebrate unyielding resilience and fierce courage. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a heart-pounding tale, and it'd be incredible if you smashed the like button, shared this video, or dropped a comment with the time and city or country you're watching from. Your likes, shares, and heartfelt comments are the greatest spiritual gift, the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Now, buckle up for a story that'll hit you right in the feels. Let's dive in. My name is Robert Whitaker, a 70-year-old widower from Boise, Idaho, who built a construction empire from nothing, brick by brick, with calloused hands, and a heart that believed family was worth every sacrifice. For 40 years, I poured my soul into Whitaker Construction, turning it into a multi-million-dollar business that put my son, Ethan, through college, paid for his wedding, and gave him a life most could only dream of. I thought I was building a legacy for him, for us. But when Ethan, my only child, stood in his sprawling, custom-built mansion funded entirely by my fortune and told me I wasn't welcome at his Thanksgiving dinner, the ground beneath me crumbled. That night, I drove home in a daze, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, and made one call that changed everything. By the next morning, I'd canceled the 7-figure trust fund payments that had kept his lavish lifestyle afloat, and that was only the beginning of my reckoning. Justice, I decided, would be served cold, and arrogance would pay a price so steep it would echo through Boise's high society. You won't believe what I uncovered next. The betrayal hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, shattering the illusions I'd clung to for decades. I sat in Ethan's opulent living room, surrounded by the trappings of a life I'd paid for marble floors that cost me $50,000, a chandelier imported from Italy for $75,000, a grand piano Ethan's wife, Victoria, insisted on for her music phase that lasted 3 weeks and set me back $40,000. I'd offered to bring my famous smoked brisket, the recipe my late wife, Margaret, had perfected over our 30 years together, the one Ethan used to beg for as a kid. "It'll be like old times," I said, sinking into the leather sectional that my second mortgage had financed. The air was thick with the scent of Victoria's jasmine candles, each one probably costing more than my weekly grocery budget. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his Rolex glinting under the recessed lighting I'd paid to install. "Dad," he said, his voice low, avoiding my eyes, "you're not welcome here for Thanksgiving." The words landed like a knife, twisting deeper with every second of silence that followed. I blinked, my mind scrambling to process the impossible. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my effort to stay composed. "Why wouldn't I be welcome?" Ethan stared at the coffee table, a $10,000 mahogany piece I'd bought when Victoria deemed their old one tacky. "Victoria's parents are coming," he mumbled. "They'd prefer if it's just their family. It's easier this way. You know how they are about their traditions." Their traditions. The phrase burned like acid. Victoria's parents, Charles and Evelyn Montgomery, old money from Boise's elite, who summered in Aspen and spoke French at dinner parties. They'd always looked at me like I was a laborer who'd wandered into their country club by mistake, despite the fact that my wealth dwarfed theirs. I'd swallowed their slights for years. Evelyn's backhanded compliments about my rustic charm, Charles's lectures about proper investments, as if I hadn't built a fortune from nothing. But this was a new level of cruelty. I looked around the room, my gaze catching on the silk drapes, $20,000. The custom wine cellar, $80,000. The security system I'd installed after Victoria's paranoia about neighborhood riffraff, $35,000. Every inch of this house was a monument to my love, my sacrifice, my foolishness. "Easier for who?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. But the rage was building, a volcano ready to erupt. Ethan flinched, his shoulders hunching like a scolded child. "Dad, don't make this harder than it is." "Harder?" I wanted to scream. "Harder for who?" "For me, who'd given up my retirement dreams to keep your lights on." For me, who'd refinanced my own home 3 times to fund your wife's endless whims. But I didn't scream. Not yet. Instead, I stood, my knees creaking from years of carrying burdens I should have never shouldered. "Where am I supposed to go for Thanksgiving, Ethan?" I asked. The question slicing through the air like a guillotine. He looked away, his eyes darting to the family photos on the mantle photos where I was conspicuously absent, replaced by Victoria's cousins, her aunts, her world. "Maybe you could visit Aunt Clara," he suggested weakly. "Or we could do something the weekend after." The weekend after. As if Thanksgiving, the holiday Margaret and I had spent decades hosting, could be rescheduled like a dentist appointment. I walked to the door, past the coat rack overflowing with Victoria's designer jackets, each one a stab at my dwindling savings. My hand gripped the doorknob, cold and unyielding. "Tell Charles and Evelyn," I said without turning back. "Happy Thanksgiving." The Boise night air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside, the glow of their mansion fading behind me. I climbed into my truck, the same beat-up Ford I'd driven since Margaret was alive, and sat there, engine off, staring at the Christmas lights, twinkling in neighbors' yards, families who didn't banish their own. My phone buzzed. Probably Ethan with some half-hearted apology, or worse, Victoria, ready to spin this as my fault. I ignored it. Instead, I turned the key, the engine roaring to life, and drove into the darkness, the weight of betrayal heavier than the millions I'd poured into their lives. As I navigated Boise's quiet streets, the numbers started spinning in my head like a slot machine gone haywire. $2 million. That's what I'd given them over the past 7 years. $2 million in trust fund payments, down payments, renovations, vacations to Maui and Paris, all while I ate canned soup to stretch my pension. The first $1 million had gone to their mansion's down payment, a sprawling estate in the North End that Victoria called essential for our status. Another $500,000 for their cars, a Tesla for her, a Range Rover for him. $300,000 for their kitchen remodel, because Victoria couldn't possibly cook in a space without imported marble. The rest? Scattered across their whims, her jewelry, his golf club memberships, their daughter's private school tuition. My retirement, Margaret's life insurance, the nest egg we'd dreamed of using to travel the world gone, siphoned into their gilded cage. I stopped at a red light on State Street, watching a father load Thanksgiving groceries into his minivan, his kids laughing in the back seat. That used to be Ethan and me, back when family meant something, before Victoria's family sank their claws into him. My best friend, Tom Reynolds, had warned me years ago. "Robert," he'd said, his voice gruff with the honesty of a man who'd seen it all, "they're bleeding you dry, and they'll spit you out when they're done." Tom, a retired firefighter who'd stood by me when Margaret died, was the kind of man who'd give you his last dollar but call you out if you crossed him. I should have listened. Instead, I dismissed him, convinced my son would never betray me. How wrong I was. Across town, Victoria's cousin Lila was probably smirking at my exclusion, the same way she'd smirked when she borrowed $10,000 for her boutique and never paid it back. Lila, with her fake tears and crocodile smiles, was the Montgomery family's attack dog, always ready to twist the knife with a well-placed rumor or a snide remark about my working-class roots. She'd been the one to suggest I wasn't cultured enough for their wine tastings, the one who'd laughed when Ethan forgot my birthday last year. And then there was Sarah, my neighbor, a widow like me, who'd quietly become my confidant. She'd seen the way Ethan and Victoria treated me, urging me to stand up for myself. "You're not their bank, Robert," she'd said over coffee last week, her eyes kind but firm. "You deserve better." The betrayal wasn't just Ethan's words. It was the years of slights piling up like unpaid bills. The missed Father's Days, the family vacations I funded but wasn't invited to, the way Victoria's parents called me the help behind my back. My heart pounded as I pulled into my driveway, the cracked asphalt another reminder of what I'd sacrificed. Inside, my house felt hollow without Margaret's warmth, without the family I'd believed in. But as I stood in my kitchen, staring at the bank statements I'd ignored for too long, something snapped. The pain of their rejection mingled with a white-hot rage. They thought they could erase me from their lives while living off my millions. They were about to learn what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. I picked up my phone, dialed my bank, and set the wheels in motion. $2 million in trust fund payments canceled with one call. Let them face the consequences of their arrogance. This was only the beginning. The Boise night wrapped around my truck like a shroud as I drove, the city's twinkling lights mocking the darkness swelling in my chest. My home, a modest ranch-style house I'd paid off decades ago with Margaret, felt like a museum of memories, her laughter still echoing in the faded wallpaper, the creak of the floorboards where we danced to old jazz records. But now, it was a mausoleum, holding the ghosts of a family I'd lost to greed and disdain. I stood in my kitchen, the fluorescent light casting harsh shadows over the linoleum, and stared at the phone I just used to cancel the trust fund payments. $2 million, gone over 7 years, and now, with one call, I'd cut the cord. But the relief I'd expected was drowned out by a tidal wave of grief and fury. How had it come to this? How had my son, the boy I'd carried on my shoulders, become a stranger who'd trade me for a seat at his wife's high society table? My phone buzzed again, shattering the silence. Victoria's name flashed like a neon warning sign. I let it ring, each chime a needle in my heart, until it went to voicemail. Then another buzz, a text. "You're making a mistake, old man. Don't think you can screw us over and walk away clean." The words dripped with her usual venom, the kind of street-smart sneer she'd perfected to mask her trust fund upbringing. "You're nothing but a washed-up contractor who got lucky. Keep pushing, and we'll bury you." Bury me? After I'd poured my life savings into her world? My hands shook, not from fear, but from a rage so raw it felt like it could burn the house down. I wanted to call her back, to scream that I'd built her palace while eating ramen to save pennies, but I didn't. Instead, I poured a shot of bourbon, Margaret's favorite, saved for nights when life felt too heavy, and let the burn steady my resolve. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my kitchen window, glinting off the chipped mugs Margaret and I used to share. I was halfway through my coffee when the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. I opened it to find Tom Reynolds, my oldest friend, standing there with a thermos of coffee and a look that said he knew something was wrong. "Heard from Sarah you had a rough night," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Tom, with his grizzled beard and firefighter's build, had been my rock since Margaret's cancer took her 8 years ago. He'd seen me through the worst of it, never asking for anything but a beer and a chance to tell me I was being a fool. "Talk to me, Robert. What did that snake Ethan do now?" I told him everything, the Thanksgiving exclusion, Victoria's parents' elitism, the $2 million I'd funneled into their lives. Tom's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "They're leeches, Robert. Always have been. You gave them your heart, and they sold it for scrap." His words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they were true. I'd spent years convincing myself Ethan's distance was just a phase, that Victoria's cruelty was just her way. But now, sitting across from Tom, I saw it clearly. They'd played me for a fool, and I'd let them. Before I could respond, my phone rang again. This time, it was Lila, Victoria's cousin, the queen of crocodile tears and backstabbing gossip. I put it on speaker, letting Tom hear her venom. "Listen up, you old dirtbag," she spat, her voice all Boise Street swagger, like she'd grown up in a dive bar instead of a gated community. "You think you can pull the plug on Ethan's money and not pay a price? We're gonna make sure everyone in this town knows what a cheap, bitter has-been you are. You're nobody, Whitaker. Nobody." The line went dead, and Tom let out a low whistle. "That one's got a mouth on her," he said, shaking his head. "Sounds like they're planning something nasty." He was right. By noon, my phone was blowing up with messages from people I barely knew, former clients, neighbors, even a distant cousin forwarding me a post from the Boise Gazette's online forum. There it was, a vicious hit piece titled, "Local Tycoon Abandons Family in Holiday Betrayal." The article, penned by some hack named Cassandra Lane, painted me as a heartless miser who'd cut off his struggling son and daughter-in-law during the holidays, leaving them penniless. No mention of the $2 million, no hint of their exclusion of me, just a sob story about Ethan and Victoria's dreams crushed by my sudden cruelty. Lila's fingerprints were all over it. She'd always bragged about her media connections at the country club. The lies twisted my gut, each word a fresh betrayal. They weren't just after my money, they wanted my reputation, my dignity, everything that made me Robert Whitaker. I stood up, pacing the kitchen, my mind a battlefield of hurt and defiance. Part of me wanted to crawl into bed, to mourn the son I'd lost, the family I'd dreamed of. Margaret's voice echoed in my head, soft and steady. "You're stronger than this, Robert." But another part of me, the part that had built a business from nothing, was waking up. They thought they could humiliate me? They'd learn what happens when you cross a man who's got nothing left to lose. I grabbed my laptop and started digging, pulling up bank records, text messages, even screenshots of Victoria's Instagram flaunting her new Birkin bag, $50,000, courtesy of my trust fund. Every click fueled my anger, but also my clarity. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was war. Then came the next shock. My phone pinged with an email from my accountant, Karen Miller, a no-nonsense woman who'd managed my books for 20 years. Robert, it read, I found something odd. Ethan accessed your secondary investment account last month and withdrew $300,000 without authorization. I thought you'd approved it, but I'm double-checking. $300,000. Stolen. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Ethan, my own flesh and blood, had hacked into my account. Probably with Lila's help, she'd always been tech-savvy, always scheming. The betrayal cut deeper than the Thanksgiving snub, deeper than the newspaper lies. This wasn't just exclusion. This was theft, cold and calculated. I called Karen immediately. Freeze everything, I told her, my voice shaking with fury. Every account, every asset. They don't get another dime. Karen's calm voice grounded me. I'm on it, Robert, and I'm sorry. I should have caught this sooner. Her loyalty, like Tom's, was a lifeline in the storm. But as I hung up, another text came through. This time from Ethan's childhood friend Jake, a mechanic who'd always been like a second son to me. Robert, heads up, it read. Victoria's telling people you're losing it, saying they might have you declared incompetent to get control of your estate. Watch your back. Incompetent? My mind reeled. They weren't just stealing my money. They were plotting to strip me of my autonomy, to lock me away like some senile old fool. I sank into a chair, the bourbon bottle staring at me from the counter. The room spun with the weight of their betrayals. Thanksgiving, the article, the theft, now this. My heart ached for the boy who'd once looked at me like I hung the moon, but that boy was gone, replaced by a man who'd sold me out for Victoria's approval. Yet, in that pain, a fire was growing. I wasn't done yet. I'd built an empire once, and I'd build something new justice, served on my terms. I looked at Tom, who'd been watching me silently, his eyes fierce with loyalty. They want to fight? I said, my voice low and steady. They're going to get one they'll never forget. The Boise morning broke cold and gray, the kind of November chill that seeps into your bones and makes you question everything. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Margaret and I used to plan our future over pancakes, now littered with bank statements and betrayal. The Gazette's hit piece stared back at me, its lies screaming louder than the truth. Ethan and Victoria, with Lila's venomous orchestration, had painted me as a monster, a heartless old man who'd turned his back on family. My chest tightened, not just with anger, but with a grief so deep it felt like losing Margaret all over again. How had my son become this? How had I let him slip so far that he'd conspire to ruin me? But as I sipped my coffee, black and bitter like my mood, a new resolve hardened within me. They wanted to play dirty? I'd show them what dirty looked like in Boise. My phone buzzed, a venomous text from Victoria lighting up the screen. You're a pathetic old fool, Whitaker, it read, her words dripping with the kind of street swagger she thought made her tough. Cut us off? We'll drag your sorry ass through the mud till you're begging to pay us again. Watch your back, loser. The audacity clawed at my insides, each word a fresh wound. She thought she could intimidate me, the man who'd built a construction empire while she was still playing with Barbie dolls. I deleted the message, but not before forwarding it to Karen, my accountant, who'd already become my sentinel in this war. Document everything, I told her over the phone. Every threat, every lie. They're not just after my money anymore, they're after my soul. Karen's voice was steady, a beacon of loyalty in the storm. I've got your back, Robert. I'm pulling every transaction they've touched. You won't believe what I found in the trust fund logs. My heart sank, bracing for another blow. What now? I asked, gripping the edge of the table. Victoria's been funneling an extra $500,000 into a private account over the last 2 years, she said. Fake invoices, marked as consulting fees for Lila's boutique. Ethan signed off on them. $500,000. Stolen, siphoned, hidden behind fake paperwork while I skipped doctor's visits to balance my budget. The betrayal wasn't just a knife anymore, it was a chainsaw, tearing through every memory of Ethan's childhood, every sacrifice I'd made. I wanted to scream, to drive to their mansion and smash that Italian chandelier to pieces, but I didn't. Instead, I asked Karen to prepare a fraud report for my lawyer, Diane Harper, a sharp-witted attorney who'd handled my business contracts for decades. Before I could process the theft, my doorbell rang, a sharp, angry chime that echoed like a gunshot. I opened it to find Charles Montgomery, Victoria's father, standing on my porch, his tailored coat pristine despite the drizzle. His eyes, cold as the November air, sized me up like I was a roach he'd found in his country club. You're a real piece of work, Whitaker, he sneered, his voice low and mean, like a barroom bully. Think you can screw over my daughter and walk away? We'll have you locked up in a home before you can blink. You washed up nobody. The threat hit like a punch, but it was his arrogance, the way he assumed I'd crumble, that lit a fire in me. Get off my property, Charles, I said, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. Or I'll call the cops and let them know about your daughter's little embezzlement scheme. His face twitched, a crack in his polished facade, before he spat on my porch and stormed off, muttering about knowing people who'd fix me. I closed the door, my hands trembling. Not from fear, but from the weight of my own naivety. I trusted Ethan, believed in him even when Tom warned me, even when Sarah begged me to see the truth. Now, Charles's threat to have me declared incompetent echoed Jake's warning, a sinister plot to strip me of everything. My mind churned, torn between the father who wanted to save his son and the man who refused to be a doormat any longer. Margaret's photo on the mantel seemed to watch me, her eyes urging me to fight, to remember who I was before I let their greed define me. I picked up my phone and called Diane. I need you to file a restraining order, I told her, my voice cracking with the pain of admitting how far things had gone. And start a civil suit for the $500,000 they stole. I'm done playing nice. As I hung up, another text came through, this time from an unknown number. You're dead to us, old man, it read. Keep pushing, and we'll make sure Boise spits on your grave. Lila, no doubt. Her venom now a public campaign to ruin me. The words stung, but they also clarified something. This wasn't just about money or Thanksgiving. It was about power, about their need to keep me small so they could feel big. I forwarded the text to Diane, adding it to the growing pile of evidence. Then, Sarah knocked on my back door, her face etched with worry. I saw Charles's car, she said, setting down a plate of homemade cornbread, her kindness a stark contrast to the vipers circling me. Are you okay, Robert? I wanted to lie, to say I was fine. But the truth spilled out. They're trying to destroy me, Sarah. My own son's part of it. She hugged me, her warmth a reminder that not everyone saw me as a resource to exploit. That afternoon, another bomb dropped. Jake, ever loyal, called with a tip. I overheard Lila at the diner, he said, his voice tight. She's spreading rumors you're hoarding millions to cheat Ethan out of his inheritance. She's got some lawyer buddy, Greg Walsh, digging into your finances. Greg, a sleazy attorney known for shady real estate deals, was the perfect pawn for Lila's schemes. My stomach churned at the thought of them prying into my life, twisting my hard-earned wealth into their narrative of victimhood. I thanked Jake, promising him a beer later, and called Diane again. They're coming for my estate, I told her. File whatever you need to protect it. Diane's calm professionalism steadied me. They won't touch a dime, Robert. I'll bury them in paperwork before they get close. As night fell, I sat in my living room, the bourbon bottle untouched now, replaced by a notepad where I scribbled my next moves. The pain of Ethan's betrayal gnawed at me, a constant ache that made every breath feel heavy. I remembered teaching him to ride a bike, his laughter filling our old backyard, and now he was signing off on theft, letting his wife and her family paint me as a villain. But beneath the hurt, a new strength was rising. They'd underestimated me, thinking I'd roll over like I always had. I opened my laptop, pulling up their social media. Victoria's posts about her perfect life, Lila's smug selfies, Ethan's silence. Every click fueled my plan. I wasn't just fighting for my money, I was fighting for my dignity, for the man Margaret loved, for the life I deserved. They wanted war? I'd give them a battle that'd make Boise's society pages burn. The Boise sky hung low and heavy, a November storm brewing over the foothills, mirroring the tempest raging inside me. My kitchen, once a sanctuary where Margaret and I shared quiet mornings, now felt like a war room, its table buried under legal documents and betrayal's paper trail. The Gazette's smear campaign, Victoria's venomous texts, and Ethan's $300,000 theft had left scars deeper than I'd thought possible, but Charles's threat to have me declared incompetent and Lila's rumors of my hoarding pushed me to a breaking point. I wasn't just fighting for my money anymore. I was fighting for my identity, for the man I'd been before I let their greed grind me down. As I sipped my coffee, now cold and bitter, I felt Margaret's presence in the silence, urging me to stand tall. They thought they could break me? They were about to learn what happens when you corner a man who's built empires from dust. My phone buzzed, a new message from Lila, her words dripping with the kind of street venom that belonged in a back alley, not her manicured North End life. "You're done, Whitaker, you greedy old bastard," it read. "We're gonna make sure every soul in Boise knows you're a selfish prick who'd rather die alone than share a dime. Keep hiding, loser." The sheer gall of it calling me selfish after I'd poured $2 million into their lavish world set my blood boiling. I wanted to fire back, to tell her she was nothing but a leech in designer heels. but I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the text to Diane, my lawyer, whose calm professionalism was a lifeline in this chaos. Add it to the file, I told her. They're escalating, and I'm not backing down. Before I could catch my breath, the doorbell rang. A sharp, aggressive jab that echoed like a gunshot in my quiet house. I opened it to find Victoria herself, standing on my porch in a fur-trimmed coat, her face twisted with contempt. "You think you're slick, don't you, old man?" She spat, her voice pure Boise street swagger, like she was auditioning for a gangster flick. "Cancel our money? Freeze our accounts? You're a pathetic little nobody who's going to regret crossing us. We'll have you in a straitjacket before Christmas, you washed-up has-been." Her words were a blade, each one slicing deeper into the wound Ethan's betrayal had left. I stood there, my heart pounding, torn between the father who wanted to beg her to bring my son back and the man who refused to let her spit on my dignity. "Get off my property, Victoria," I said, my voice low but steel, hard, "or I'll have the cops here faster than you can pawn that coat for rent money." Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock breaking her bravado, but she recovered quickly, stepping closer, her perfume choking the air. "You're nothing, Whitaker. A broke-ass contractor who got lucky once. We'll ruin you, and Ethan's on our side, not yours." The mention of Ethan was a gut punch, but I held her gaze, refusing to flinch. "You've got 10 seconds to leave, or I'm calling Diane to add harassment to your rap sheet." She laughed, a cold, brittle sound, and stormed off, but not before spitting on my doorstep, a final act of disrespect that burned like acid. I closed the door, my hands shaking, the weight of her words crashing over me. Ethan? On their side? My son, who'd once run to me with scraped knees, now plotting with his wife to lock me away? The pain was a living thing, clawing at my chest, but beneath it, a fire burned hotter. I wasn't their pawn anymore. I walked to my desk, where Karen had sent me a new bombshell. A financial audit revealing Victoria had forged my signature on a loan application for $250,000, using my company's name as collateral. The audacity was staggering. She'd not only stolen from my personal accounts, but had tried to tie my business to her debts. My mind reeled, torn between grief for the family I'd lost and a growing fury that demanded justice. Margaret's voice whispered in my head, "Don't let them take you, Robert. You're stronger than this." As I processed the forgery, Sarah knocked gently on my back door, her arms full with a casserole dish, her eyes soft with concern. "I saw Victoria's car," she said, setting the dish on my counter. "You holding up?" Sarah, my widowed neighbor, had become a quiet ally, her kindness a stark contrast to the vipers circling me. I told her about the loan forgery, my voice breaking as I admitted how far Ethan had fallen. "He's not the boy I raised," I said, my throat tight. "He's letting them destroy me." Sarah squeezed my hand, her warmth grounding me. "You're not alone, Robert. You've got Tom, Jake, me. They can't take your spirit unless you let them." Before I could thank her, my phone rang. Jake, my loyal informant, his voice urgent. "Robert, you need to know something. Lila's been meeting with Greg Walsh at some shady bar downtown. They're planning to file a petition to have you declared mentally unfit, claiming you've been erratic since Margaret died. They've got fake witnesses, some of Victoria's country club buddies." The news hit like a freight train. Fake witnesses, my own son's silence, while his wife and her cousin plotted to strip me of my autonomy. The betrayal cut deeper than the money, deeper than the Thanksgiving snub. I thanked Jake, promising to cover his next tab at the diner, and called Diane immediately. "File an emergency injunction," I told her. "They're trying to have me committed, and add the forgery to the lawsuit." And as night fell, I stood in my living room, staring at Margaret's photo, her smile a reminder of the life we'd built together. The pain of Ethan's complicity was a knife in my heart, twisting with every new revelation. Victoria's forgery, Lila's witnesses, Charles's threats. I wanted to believe Ethan could still be saved, that somewhere beneath his wife's influence was the boy who'd loved me. But another part of me, the part that had survived Boise's cutthroat business world, knew better. They'd declared war, and I was done playing the victim. I opened my laptop, pulling up more evidence emails from Victoria to Lila, gloating about milking the old man for another million, bank transfers I hadn't authorized, even a photo of Ethan at a yacht party I'd unknowingly funded. Every click stoked my resolve. Then, another shock. A voicemail from my old business partner, Frank Delgado, a straight-shooting contractor who'd retired to Meridian. "Robert, I heard something at the golf course," he said, his voice heavy. "Charles Montgomery's been telling people you're hiding assets offshore to cheat Ethan out of his inheritance. He's got some accountant buddy cooking up fake records to back it up." Offshore accounts? The lie was so brazen, it almost made me laugh. But the pain of their relentless campaign drowned out any humor. They weren't just stealing my money, they were rewriting my legacy to make me the villain. I forwarded the voicemail to Diane, my hands steady now, fueled by a clarity I hadn't felt in years. They wanted to paint me as a monster? I'd show them what a monster could do when pushed too far. The storm outside was breaking, and so was I, but not in the way they expected. I was ready to fight, and Boise would never forget it. The Boise dawn broke with a brittle edge, the November frost clinging to my windows like a warning of the Cold War I was now waging. My kitchen, once a haven of warmth with Margaret's laughter, was now a fortress of resolve, its counters stacked with evidence of betrayal. Forged loan documents, venomous texts, and a Gazette article that had turned my name into mud. Victoria's forgery of $250,000, Lila's plot to have me declared incompetent, and Charles's lies about offshore accounts had stripped away the last vestiges of the father who'd hoped to save his son. Ethan's silence in this storm hurt more than any insult, a quiet complicity that carved a hollow space in my chest. But as I stood over my coffee, the steam curling like a ghost of Margaret's encouragement, I felt a shift. Grief was giving way to strategy. They'd tried to bury me. Now I'd show them what Robert Whitaker was made of. My phone lit up with another text from Lila, her words raw and vicious, straight out of a Boise dive bar. "You're a dead man walking, Whitaker, you stingy old prick," it read. "We'll make sure this town chews you up and spits you out. Nobody crosses us. You broke-ass nobody." The sheer nerve calling me broke after I'd bankrolled their empire ignited a fury that burned hotter than the pain. I wanted to smash the phone, to drive to their mansion and tear down every chandelier I'd paid for, but I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the text to Diane, my lawyer, whose steely competence was my anchor. "They're desperate," she said over the phone, her voice calm but sharp. "I'm filing the fraud suit today, and the injunction's in place. They won't touch your estate." Before I could respond, a pounding on my front door rattled the house, loud enough to wake the dead. I opened it to find Ethan's old college buddy, Nate Carver, a slick real estate agent with a smile like a used car salesman. Nate had always been Victoria's lapdog, sniffing around for scraps of her approval. "You're a real piece of shit, Whitaker," he sneered, his voice dripping with street bravado, like he'd learned it from bad rap videos. "Screwing over your own kid? You're gonna rot alone, you greedy bastard. Hand over the cash, or we'll make sure every contractor in Idaho blacklists you." The threat was a gut punch, not just for its venom, but for what it revealed. Ethan had sent his lackey to intimidate me, too spineless to face me himself. My heart twisted, torn between the father who still saw Ethan's boyish grin and the man who refused to be bullied by a punk in a cheap suit. "Get the hell off my porch, Nate," I said, my voice low and dangerous, "or I'll have Diane slap you with a harassment charge before you can blink." His smirk faltered, but he leaned in, his breath reeking of cheap cologne. "You're done, old man. Ethan's ashamed of you, and we're gonna make sure everyone knows it." The mention of Ethan's shame was a dagger, but I held my ground, slamming the door in his face. Inside, my hands shook, the pain of my son's betrayal, a raw wound. I wanted to believe he was trapped, coerced by Victoria's family, but Nate's words echoed the truth. Ethan had chosen them over me, again and again. I sank into a chair, Margaret's photo watching me from the mantel. Her eyes seemed to plead, "Don't give up, Robert." But the weight of Ethan's absence pressed down, a crushing reminder of the years I'd spent pouring love and money into a son who now sent thugs to my door. Then, another blow. An email from Karen, my accountant, flagged as urgent. "Robert, I found another discrepancy," it read. "Victoria used your company's credit line to secure a yacht lease $750,000, backdated to look like a business expense." Ethan co-signed it. $750,000. My company, my life's work, now a piggy bank for their fantasies. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore. It was an assault on everything I'd built. I called Diane immediately, my voice trembling with rage. "Add it to the lawsuit," I said. "They're not just stealing from me, they're dismantling my legacy." As I hung up, Sarah's gentle knock came at the back door. She carried a thermos of tea, her face etched with worry. "I heard yelling," she said, setting the thermos down. "Was that Nate Carver's car?" I nodded, pouring out the latest Nate's threats, the yacht lease, Ethan's complicity. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her loyalty a balm to my wounds. "You don't deserve this, Robert," she said, her voice breaking. "You gave them everything, and they're spitting in your face." Her words mirrored my pain, but they also stoked my resolve. "I wasn't alone, Sarah, Tom, Jake. and now Frank were my army, their faith in me a shield against the vipers. Then, another shock hit. My phone rang, and it was Frank Delgado, his voice heavy with urgency. "Robert, I just got a call from a buddy at the Boise Business Association. Charles Montgomery's been meeting with city council members, spreading lies that you've been dodging taxes on your construction projects. He's pushing for an audit to expose you." Tax evasion? The accusation was so absurd it would have been laughable if it weren't so dangerous. An audit could tie up my business for years, even if I was clean. Charles wasn't just after my money, he wanted my reputation in ashes. I thanked Frank, promising to repay his loyalty, and called Diane again. "File a defamation suit," I told her. "They're trying to ruin my business now." As night settled over Boise, I stood in my living room, staring at Margaret's photo, her smile a reminder of the life we'd built together. The pain of Ethan's complicity was a constant ache. Each new revelation, Nate's threats, the yacht lease, the tax, lies another nail in the coffin of the family I'd dreamed of. I wanted to call Ethan, to beg him to see reason, to remember the father who'd given him everything. But the man who'd built Whitaker Construction didn't beg. I opened my laptop, pulling up more evidence. Emails between Victoria and Nate, joking about squeezing the old man dry. Bank statements showing unauthorized transfers. Even a video Lila had posted, laughing on the yacht I'd unknowingly paid for. Every click was a step toward war. Then, one final bombshell. A text from Jake. "Robert, check your mailbox. Someone left something there." I stepped outside, the cold biting my skin, and found an anonymous envelope. Inside was a photocopy of a legal document, a draft petition to have me declared mentally unfit, signed by Ethan. My own son, plotting to lock me away, to steal my freedom. The paper crumpled in my fist, the pain so raw, it stole my breath. But as I stood there, under the Boise stars, Margaret's voice whispered again, "You're enough, Robert." I wasn't broken yet. They'd thrown everything at me, lies, theft, threats, but I was still standing. I walked back inside, my resolve a blazing fire. They wanted to play dirty? I'd show them what a real fight looked like. Boise was about to see a reckoning they'd never forget. The Boise winter deepened, the December air sharp as a blade, slicing through the quiet of my home where Margaret's memory lingered like a fading melody. My kitchen, now a battleground of legal documents and shattered trust, bore witness to my transformation from a grieving father to a warrior forged in betrayal's fire. Ethan's signature on a petition to declare me mentally unfit, Victoria's $750,000 yacht lease, and Charles's tax evasion lies had pushed me beyond pain into a cold, calculated fury. Each new attack, Lila's vicious texts, Nate's threats, the Gazette's smear felt like a nail in the coffin of the family I'd once cherished. But as I stood over my desk, sorting evidence like a general preparing for battle, I felt Margaret's strength in my bones. They'd tried to erase me, but I was about to write my name across Boise in a way they'd never forget. My phone buzzed. Another venomous message from Nate Carver, his words raw with street-bred malice. "You're a rotting corpse, Whitaker, you cheap-ass fossil," it read. "We're gonna burn your name to the ground. And Ethan's laughing while we do it. Keep playing tough. You'll be crying in a gutter." The lie about Ethan laughing cut deeper than the insult, a fresh wound in a heart already scarred. I wanted to believe my son wasn't that far gone, that somewhere beneath Victoria's grip was the boy who'd clung to me during thunderstorms. But the evidence, his signature, his silence, told a different story. I forwarded the text to Diane, my lawyer, whose voice crackled with urgency when she called back. "Robert, they've escalated," she said. "Greg Walsh filed the competency petition this morning, backed by affidavits from Victoria's country club cronies. We need to counter this now." "Oh, are you enjoying the story so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just drop a quick comment below to share how you feel. It only takes a few seconds, but your words give me the motivation and inspiration to make every chapter more thrilling and engaging. Go ahead, let me know what's on your mind. And now, let's dive back into the story." Before I could respond, a pounding on my door shook the house, loud enough to rattle the windows. I opened it to find Evelyn Montgomery, Victoria's mother, her face a mask of aristocratic disdain twisted with rage. "You're a filthy lowlife, Whitaker," she snarled, her voice dripping with a venom that could have come from a Boise bar brawl. "Think you can humiliate my family? We'll have you locked in a loony bin. You broke down nobody, and we'll take every penny you've got." Her words were a sledgehammer, each one pounding the fragile hope I'd held for Ethan. I stood there, my heart torn between the father who wanted to plead for his son's soul and the man who refused to bow to her elitist venom. "Leave, Evelyn," I said, my voice a low growl. or I'll have you arrested for trespassing before you can call your country club lawyer." Her eyes narrowed, but she stepped closer, her perfume sharp and suffocating. "You're a disgrace, Whitaker. Ethan despises you, and we'll make sure Boise does too." The mention of Ethan's hatred was a knife to the gut, but I held my ground, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. Inside, my chest heaved, the pain of my son's betrayal, a living thing, clawing at me. I wanted to collapse, to mourn the boy I'd lost, but Margaret's photo on the mantel held my gaze, her eyes urging me to fight. I wasn't done yet. Then, another bombshell. An email from Frank Delgado, my old business partner, marked urgent. "Robert, I found something at the county recorder's office," it read. "Victoria filed a lien against your primary business property, claiming you owed her $1 million for consulting services. Ethan's name is on the paperwork. $1 million. A fabricated debt, slapped on my company's headquarters, the building I'd poured my life into." My vision blurred, not from tears, but from a rage so intense it felt like it could crack the earth. Ethan, my own blood, had conspired to tie my legacy to their lies. I called Diane, my voice trembling but resolute. "File a countersuit for fraud and slander," I told her. "They're trying to steal my company now." As I hung up, Sarah's soft knock came at the back door. She carried a plate of homemade cookies, her eyes heavy with concern. "I saw Evelyn's car," she said, setting the plate down. "What's happened now?" I told her about the lien, my voice cracking as I admitted Ethan's role. "He's trying to take everything, Sarah," I said, my throat tight. "My son's killing me, and I don't know how to stop him." Sarah's hand found mine, her warmth a lifeline. "You're stronger than they know, Robert," she said, her voice trembling with empathy. "They can't take your heart unless you let them." Her loyalty, like Tom's and Jake's, was a beacon in the darkness, but the weight of Ethan's betrayal threatened to drown me. Then, another shock. A call from Jake, his voice frantic. "Robert, I was at the diner, and Lila was there with some reporter, Cassandra Lane. They're planning a follow-up Gazette article, claiming you've been laundering money through your company. They've got fake documents Charles paid someone to forge them. Money laundering? The accusation was a death blow, threatening not just my reputation, but my freedom. Charles wasn't just after my wealth, he wanted me in prison." I thanked Jake, promising a steak dinner, and called Diane again. "We need to go public," I told her. "They're framing me for crimes I didn't commit." As night fell, I stood in my living room, the Boise wind howling outside, echoing the storm in my soul. Ethan's signature on the lien, his silence in the face of these lies, was a betrayal deeper than the millions they'd stolen. I wanted to call him, to scream until he remembered the father who'd given him everything, but the man who'd built Whitaker Construction didn't plead. I opened my laptop, compiling more evidence. Forged lien documents, Lila's social media posts bragging about big plans, a recorded voicemail from Nate threatening to end me. Every piece was a weapon in my arsenal. Then one final blow. A letter slipped under my door, anonymous but reeking of Lila's handiwork. "You're finished, Whitaker," it read. "We've got photos of you meeting with shady contractors, proof you're dirty. Drop the lawsuits, or we leak them." Photos? Fabricated, no doubt, but dangerous in a town where reputation was everything. The pain of their relentless assault was a vice around my heart. But as I stared at Margaret's photo, her strength fueled mine. They'd tried to break me, but I was still standing. I wasn't just fighting for justice anymore, I was fighting for my life. I picked up my phone, texting Diane, "Set up a press conference. It's time to tell Boise the truth." The war was on, and I was ready to strike back. The Boise morning was a cold, gray shroud, the kind that makes you feel the weight of every choice you've ever made. I stood in my living room, Nate's laptop glowing with evidence of Vanessa's fraud, hundreds of thousands of dollars siphoned from my company, Ethan's signatures branding me a fool. The Boise Chronicle's lies, Marcus's legal threats, Charles's campaign to blacklist me, and now Greg's forged audits. It was a guillotine, each blade sharper, each cut deeper. My heart was a battlefield, torn between the father who clung to memories of Ethan's laughter and the man who'd been betrayed beyond repair. His voicemail haunted me. I didn't know Dad, but the paper trail screamed complicity. I wanted to believe he was trapped, but the truth was a jagged pill. He'd chosen Vanessa's world over mine. As I prepared to take the fight public, my phone erupted with a new assault, and the betrayals stacked higher, each one a venomous strike meant to break me. I was ready to burn their lies to the ground, but what came next tested every ounce of my resolve. I was sorting through Nate's report, $180,000 to a Cayman shell company, $75,000 to Greg's fake firm when my phone screamed with a call from an unknown number. I answered, expecting another threat, but it was worse. A reporter from a local television station, KTVB, her voice slick with fake sympathy. Mr. Harper, we're running a story tonight about allegations of elder abuse against you. Sources claim you've been harassing Vanessa's parents, Charles and Evelyn Wentworth. Care to comment? Elder abuse. The words were a shotgun blast to the chest. I'd spent $3 million propping up their daughter's life, and now they were accusing me of terrorizing them. No comment, I growled, hanging up before my rage could spill over. My hands shook as I checked my email. Another hit. A viral social media post from Lila Brooks, Vanessa's venomous sidekick, showing a blurry photo of me at Ethan's house, captioned, "This deadbeat dad tried to ruin our Christmas. Number justice for Vanessa." It had 10,000 shares, comments calling me a monster, a lowlife who preys on his own family. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the couch, the weight of their lies crushing me. I wanted to scream at Ethan, to demand why he let this happen, but the father in me was drowning in grief. I saw him at 5, building sandcastles on the Boise River, his tiny hands trusting mine to guide him. Was that boy gone forever, or was he buried under Vanessa's manipulation, too weak to fight? Ellen's voice whispered, "You can't give up on him, Bill." But the pain was a wildfire, burning through every hope I'd clung to. I was losing him, my son, my legacy, and the world was cheering for my destruction. Then my phone buzzed again, a text from Sarah Coleman. "Bill, emergency council meeting today. Charles is pushing to suspend your contracts now. I'm stalling, but you need to move fast." Before I could respond, my front door flew open, and in stormed Charles Wentworth himself, his tailored suit screaming old money, his face red with aristocratic fury. Behind him was Tony Rizzo, a crooked contractor I'd once outbid on a city project, now grinning like a jackal. Charles didn't wait for an invitation. "You pathetic old fool," he spat, his voice a mix of country club polish and street grit. "You think you can drag my daughter through the mud and walk away? You're a broke-ass nobody, Harper, a dirt-stained loser who got lucky building strip malls. I've got this town wired judges, cops, reporters. You're done, you hear me? Done. Hand over that USB, or I'll make sure you rot in a cell." Tony smirked, cracking his knuckles. "Yeah, Bill, you're a dead man walking. Keep screwing with us, and we'll make sure your company's nothing but ash." Their words were a chainsaw, tearing through what little composure I had left. I stood, my voice ice cold. "You're trespassing, Charles. You and your goon get out, or I'll show you what a nobody can do." Charles laughed, a vicious bark. "Oh please, you washed up hack. Vanessa's got a video of you yelling at her, edited to make you look like a lunatic. It's hitting the news tonight. You're finished, and Ethan's done with you too. He's my family now, not yours." The mention of Ethan was a dagger to the heart, twisting deeper. My mind reeled. Had Ethan given them a video? Was he filming me that night I left his house, when I was too hurt to speak? The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my soul, but I refused to break. Then another blow, my phone pinged with an email from a client, one of my biggest, canceling a $5 million project, citing concerns about your financial integrity. Attached was a screenshot of Lila's post, now trending with 20,000 shares. My legacy, my employees' livelihoods, were crumbling under Charles's influence. I wanted to call Ethan, to beg him to tell me he wasn't part of this video, this smear, but the signatures on those fake audits burned in my mind. My heart screamed for the boy who'd once called me his hero, but my head knew he'd chosen Vanessa's lies over my truth. The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but the rage was a lifeline, pulling me back to the surface. Jenny burst through the door, her face pale but fierce. "Bill, I got something," she said, holding a tablet. Nate traced another account, $250,000. Vanessa funneled to a charity she claims to run. It's a front, all your money, and Ethan's name is on the board. Another betrayal, another knife. I looked at Jenny, her loyalty a beacon in the dark, and then at Charles, still smirking. "You think you've won?" I said, my voice low, dangerous. "I've got every cent you stole on record, and I'm taking it public." Charles's smile faltered, but Tony stepped forward, his voice a growl. "You're bluffing, old man. Try it, and we'll leak that video to every news outlet in Idaho. You'll be a laughingstock by morning." I turned to Jenny, my resolve hardening like concrete. "Call Nate. Tell him to finalize the report. We're going to the press. Every email, every receipt, every lie." I faced Charles, my eyes burning. "You want to play king? I'll show you what a man with nothing to lose can do." He scoffed, but there was fear in his eyes as he and Tony left, their threats lingering like smoke. I sank back onto the couch, my heart heavy with the weight of Ethan's betrayal. I saw him at 10, helping me hammer nails on a job site, his pride in me brighter than the sun. Was that boy gone forever, or could I still save him? The Boise storm was coming, and I was ready to meet it, even if it meant tearing down everything I'd ever loved. The Boise sky hung low, a bruised canvas of clouds that mirrored the storm raging in my chest. Nate's report sat on my kitchen table, a damning ledger of Vanessa's theft, $250,000, funneled to a fake charity, $180,000 to offshore accounts, all bearing Ethan's signature. The Boise Chronicle's slander, Charles's crusade to blacklist my company, and now a viral video framing me as a lunatic. It was a chokehold. Each lie tighter, each betrayal sharper. My heart was a fractured mosaic, torn between the father who still heard Ethan's childhood laughter and the man whose trust had been ground to dust. His voicemail, "I didn't know, Dad," was a ghost I couldn't shake, but the evidence screamed he'd chosen Vanessa's venom over me. As I prepared to expose their lies to the press, my world erupted with a new wave of treachery, each blow a calculated strike to shatter me. I was ready to fight, but what came next pushed me to the brink of everything I thought I could survive. I was finalizing my plan with Jenny, every receipt, every email, every forged audit ready to go public when my phone exploded with notifications. A new post from Lila Brooks on X, tagged with number Justice for Vanessa, linked to a grainy security video from Ethan's house. It showed me in their kitchen, arms raised mid-gesture, my voice dubbed with a looped scream that wasn't mine, Vanessa's fake sobs layered in for maximum effect. The caption read, "Millionaire dad threatens family in rage-fueled meltdown. 30,000 shares in hours. Comments calling me a psycho, a disgrace to Boise." My stomach churned, the betrayal a blade twisting deeper. Had Ethan given them the footage? The thought was a sledgehammer, cracking the last piece of hope I'd held for him. I wanted to call him, to scream, "Did you film me?" But the father in me was drowning, suffocated by the man who'd been stabbed too many times to bleed quietly. Then the doorbell thundered, a violent pounding that shook the walls. Through the peephole, I saw Evelyn Wentworth, Vanessa's mother, her pearl necklace gleaming like a noose, flanked by Carla Diaz, a gossip columnist who'd once begged me for a job. Carla, with her predatory smirk and knockoff Chanel, was Vanessa's new mouthpiece, ready to amplify their lies. I opened the door, and Evelyn swept in, her voice a venomous hiss laced with street grit. "You're a pathetic old dirtbag, Bill," she spat, her eyes cold as ice. "Thinking you can drag my baby girl's name through the mud? You're a broke-ass nobody who got lucky swinging a hammer. We've got you on video, screaming like a lunatic, and Carla's got every news outlet ready to eat it up. Hand over that USB, or we'll make sure you're locked up by Christmas, you washed-up loser." Carla smirked, twirling her pen. "Yeah, Bill, you're toast. Keep playing tough, and we'll make sure Boise spits on your name for good." Their words were a Molotov cocktail, igniting every raw nerve. I stood my ground, my voice steel. "You're trespassing, Evelyn. You and your hack reporter get out, or I'll show you what a nobody can do." Evelyn laughed, a cruel, guttural sound. "Oh, please, you sad old fool. Ethan gave us that video himself. He's done with you, Bill. You're not his family anymore. You're just a bank account we don't need." The mention of Ethan was a gut punch, the air leaving my lungs. Had he really handed them the footage, knowing it would destroy me? My mind reeled, flashing to him at 12, helping me paint our old house, his grin brighter than the Boise sun. Was that boy gone forever? Or was he trapped in Vanessa's web, too weak to break free? The grief was a tsunami, threatening to pull me under, but the rage was a lifeline, burning brighter with every lie. Then another blow, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek Walsh. "Bill, 3 more clients just pulled out. $5 million in contracts gone. Charles is claiming you bribed officials." $5 million? My employees, my legacy, were crumbling under Charles's vendetta. I wanted to believe Ethan wasn't part of this, but the video, his signatures, his silence, they painted a truth I couldn't ignore. My heart screamed to save him, to drive to his house and beg him to choose me, but my head knew he'd already made his choice. Ellen's voice echoed, "He's our son, Bill." But the pain was a living thing, clawing at my soul, tearing apart the father I'd been. Before I could catch my breath, Jenny burst in, her face pale but fierce, holding a new stack of documents. "Bill, Nate found more," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. "Vanessa's been laundering another $300,000 through a fake LLC tied to Carla's husband. Ethan's name is on the registration. Another betrayal, another knife." My chest tightened, the room spinning. Ethan, my boy. Not just complicit, but neck deep in their schemes. I sank into a chair, my voice barely a whisper. Jenny, how do I keep fighting when it's him? Her eyes softened, her loyalty a beacon. Because you're not just fighting for you, Bill. You're fighting for everyone. They've hurt your employees, your clients, Ellen's memory. Then the final blow, a call from Nate, his voice grim. Bill, I hacked into Vanessa's email. She's planning to leak a forged police report claiming you assaulted her. It's set to hit the news tomorrow unless you pay her $1 million. $1 million. The audacity was a slap, but the betrayal was a death knell. I saw Ethan at 16, promising to take over Harper Builders one day, his eyes full of pride. Was that boy a lie, or was he still in there, buried under Vanessa's poison? The grief was a weight I could barely carry, but the rage was a fire, burning away doubt. I stood, my voice cold as steel. Nate, send the report to every news outlet in Boise. Jenny, get Sarah on the phone. We're not waiting for their next move. I turned to Evelyn, still smirking in my living room. You think you've won? I said, my eyes burning. I've got every cent you stole, every lie you told, and I'm taking it to the world. You want to play dirty? I'll show you what a man with nothing left to lose can do. Her smile faltered, but Carla stepped forward, her voice a sneer. You're bluffing, old man. That video's going viral, and you'll be a pariah by morning. I held her gaze, unflinching. Try me. They left, their threats lingering like poison. But I wasn't alone. Jenny, Nate, Sarah, they were my family now, bound by loyalty, not blood. The Boise storm was here, and I was ready to unleash hell, even if it meant losing Ethan forever. The Boise afternoon was a frozen blade, the December wind howling through the downtown streets as I pulled into the lot of the community center where my press conference was set to begin. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with the weight of what I was about to do, expose Ethan, Victoria, and their venomous clan for the thieves and liars they were. The $2 million fake contract, the forged invoices, and the petition to declare me incompetent had carved a chasm in my soul. Each betrayal a reminder of the son I'd lost to greed. Margaret's photo, tucked in my suit pocket like a talisman, fueled my resolve. They tried to destroy me, but today, in front of Boise's press, I'd turn their lies to ash. As I stepped out of my truck, the cold bit my skin, but inside, a fire burned hotter than ever. This was my moment to reclaim my name. Inside, the conference room buzzed with reporters, their cameras flashing like vultures circling a corpse. Diane stood by the podium, her face a mask of calm determination, her briefcase packed with the evidence we'd compiled. Bank records, threatening texts, forged documents. But before I could take the stage, my phone buzzed with a text from Lila, her words dripping with street-bred venom. You're a walking dead man, Whitaker, you filthy old crook, it read. Show up to your little circus and we'll make sure you choke on it, you broke-ass fraud. The audacity calling me a fraud after their $1 million schemes made my blood boil. I wanted to scream back, to tell her she was a leech in Louboutin. But I forwarded the text to Diane, who nodded grimly. They're here, she whispered. Lila and Cassandra Lane, in the back. Be ready. As I stepped to the podium, the room fell silent, all eyes on me. I began, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. I'm Robert Whitaker, and I've been painted as a villain by people I trusted my own family. Before I could continue, the doors burst open, and Victoria stormed in, flanked by Nate Carver and Cassandra Lane, their faces twisted with smug malice. You're a lying piece of garbage, Whitaker, Victoria shouted, her voice pure Boise street swagger, cutting through the room like a chainsaw. Think you can spin this? You're a greedy old bastard who cut off your own kid. Tell him how you hid millions to screw us over, you lowlife. The accusation was a gut punch, her lies echoing the Gazette's smears. Reporters murmured, cameras flashing, as the room teetered on chaos. My heart twisted, the pain of Ethan's absence a raw wound. I wanted to believe he wasn't behind this circus, but his silence screamed complicity. Sit down, Victoria, I said, my voice low but cutting. Or I'll let these documents speak for you. Her eyes widened, but she sneered, stepping closer. You got nothing, old man. You're done, and Ethan's cheering us on while you crash and burn. Ethan's name was a knife, but I held my ground, signaling Diane. She opened her briefcase, pulling out a stack of evidence, bank statements, forged contracts, Lila's texts. This, I said, holding up the $2 million fake contract, is what my son and his wife did to my company. They stole millions, lied to this city, and tried to have me locked away. The room erupted, reporters shouting questions, but another shock hit. Cassandra Lane, the Gazette reporter, stood up, waving a stack of papers. "We have proof Whitaker's been bribing city officials," she declared, her voice smug. "These invoices show he overcharged clients for years." The lie was a bombshell, threatening to derail everything. My chest tightened, the betrayal of their relentless campaign, a crushing weight. But Diane was ready, holding up our evidence. "These are forgeries," she said, her voice slicing through the noise. "We've traced them to Lila Montgomery's boutique, a shell company used to funnel stolen funds." The reporters turned on Lila, who paled, her bravado crumbling. Then, another blow. Nate Carver shoved forward, his face red with rage. "You're a pathetic old fool, Whitaker," he yelled, his street-tough sneer echoing Victoria's. "Ethan's done with you, and we'll make sure you're run out of Boise, you crooked, has been—" The mention of Ethan's rejection was a fresh wound, but before I could respond, Tom Reynolds, my loyal friend, stood up from the audience, his firefighter's bulk commanding attention. "You're the crooks, Carver," he growled. "Robert gave you everything and you spit in his face. Show some damn respect." The room shifted, reporters sensing the tide turning. But the pain of Ethan's betrayal gnawed at me, a reminder of the son I'd lost. As the press conference continued, Sarah slipped in quietly, her presence a balm to my frayed nerves. She caught my eye, her nod a silent promise. "You're not alone." But another shock hit. My phone buzzed with a live feed from Jake, who'd hacked into a security camera at Victoria's mansion. The footage showed Ethan, sitting silently as Charles and Evelyn plotted with Greg Walsh, the sleazy lawyer, to escalate their competency petition with forged medical records claiming I had dementia. My own son, conspiring to lock me away while I fought for my name. The pain was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but Margaret's photo in my pocket anchored me. I handed the phone to Diane, who projected the footage for the room to see. Gasps filled the air as Ethan's complicity was laid bare, his face pale on the screen. The final blow came as Lila, cornered, lunged forward, snatching a reporter's microphone. "He's a liar!" she screamed, her voice raw with desperation. "He's hiding millions offshore, cheating his own family. We've got proof." But her lies collapsed as Diane held up emails between Lila and Greg, gloating about framing the old man for tax evasion. The reporters turned on her, cameras flashing, as Victoria and Nate shrank back, their facade crumbling. My heart ached for Ethan, the boy I'd raised now a stranger, but I stood tall, my voice steady. "They stole millions, forged documents, and tried to destroy me," I said. "But I'm still here, and the truth is out." As the conference ended, reporters swarmed, but I felt hollow, the victory bitter. Ethan's betrayal was a wound that wouldn't heal. Each lie a reminder of the family I'd lost. Sarah's hand on my arm grounded me, her eyes full of quiet strength. "You did it, Robert," she whispered. "You showed them who you are." But as I drove home, the Boise skyline fading behind me, I felt Margaret's absence more than ever. I'd won this battle, but the war wasn't over. They'd come for me again, and I'd be ready with evidence, with allies, with a fire they couldn't extinguish. The Boise night closed in, a December chill seeping through my windows as I sat in my living room, the echo of the press conference still ringing in my ears. The room, once filled with Margaret's warmth, now held only the weight of my victory, a hollow triumph stained by Ethan's betrayal. Exposing Victoria's $2 million fake contract, Lila's forged invoices, and the competency petition had turned Boise's gaze on them. But the cost was a wound that bled anew with every thought of my son. His face on that security footage, silently complicit as Charles and Evelyn plotted to lock me away, haunted me like a ghost. Margaret's photo, still tucked in my pocket, was my only anchor, her silent strength urging me to keep fighting. They'd tried to bury me, but I'd risen. Now, as I sipped bourbon, its burn a faint echo of my rage, I braced for their next move. They wouldn't stop, and neither would I. My phone buzzed, a text from Nate Carver, his words dripping with raw, street-bred venom. "You're a rotting piece of trash, Whitaker, you sniveling old bastard," it read. "Think your little press stunt scared us? We'll make you wish you were dead, you broke-ass coward." The audacity calling me a coward after they'd stolen millions set my blood on fire. I wanted to drive to his sleazy real estate office and smash his smug face through a window, but I didn't. I forwarded the text to Diane, my lawyer, whose voice was a blade of calm when she called. "They're unraveling, Robert," she said. "The Gazette's retracting their story, and we've got a defamation suit ready. But stay sharp, they're not done." Before I could respond, a violent pounding shook my front door, loud enough to rattle the walls. I opened it to find Greg Walsh, the sleazy lawyer, his face twisted with fury, his cheap suit reeking of cigarette smoke. "You're a dead-end loser, Whitaker," he snarled, his voice pure Boise street grit, like he'd crawled out of a dive bar. "Think you can humiliate my clients and walk away? We'll have you in a psych ward, you washed up nobody, and we'll take your whole damn company." His threat was a sledgehammer, each word pounding the fragile hope I'd held for Ethan's redemption. My heart twisted, torn between the father who wanted to believe his son wasn't lost, and the man who refused to let this bottom feeder break him. "Get off my porch, Greg," I said, my voice low and lethal, "or I'll have you disbarred before you can blink." His eyes flickered with uncertainty, but he leaned in, his breath foul. "Ethan's done with you, Whitaker. You're nothing but a paycheck. He's tired of cashing." Ethan's name was a knife, but I slammed the door, the impact echoing my resolve. Inside, my chest heaved, the pain of my son's betrayal, a raw, gaping wound. I wanted to call him, to beg for the boy who'd once called me his hero, but Margaret's photo in my pocket steadied me. I wasn't their victim anymore. Then another bombshell, an email from Karen, my accountant, marked urgent. "Robert, I found something catastrophic," it read. "Ethan and Victoria used your company's name to secure a fake partnership deal worth $3 million, funneling it through a shell company tied to Nate Carver's real estate firm. The contract's dated last week. $3 million. My company, my life's work, twisted into their latest heist after the press conference. The betrayal was a tidal wave, drowning the last flicker of hope I'd held for Ethan. My vision blurred with rage, the pain so intense it felt like my heart might shatter. I called Diane, my voice trembling but firm. "File criminal charges," I said. "They're not just stealing, they're trying to erase me." As I processed the betrayal, Sarah's soft knock came at the back door. She carried a pot of chili, her eyes heavy with worry. "I saw Greg's car," she said, setting the pot down. "What's happened now?" I told her about the fake partnership, my voice breaking as I admitted Ethan's role. "He's trying to destroy me, Sarah," I said, my throat tight. "My own son's killing everything I built." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her loyalty, a beacon in the storm. "You're more than what they've taken, Robert," she said, her voice trembling. "They can't steal your soul." Her words were a lifeline, but the weight of Ethan's actions threatened to pull me under. Then, another shock. A call from Frank Delgado, his voice tight with alarm. "Robert, I was at a city council meeting, and Charles Montgomery's been lobbying to revoke your business licenses, claiming you've been operating illegally. He's got fake permits forged by Greg Walsh." Illegal operations? The accusation was a death knell, threatening to shut down Whitaker Construction entirely. Charles wasn't just after my money, he wanted my legacy in ruins. I thanked Frank, promising a fishing trip, and called Diane. "We need to hit back hard," I told her. "File for sanctions against Charles and Greg." As night deepened, I stood in my living room, the Boise wind howling outside, mirroring the storm in my soul. Ethan's role in the $3 million scam was a wound that wouldn't heal, each lie a fresh cut. I wanted to believe he was coerced, trapped by Victoria's family, but his signature on the contract told a different story. Then, one final blow, a voicemail from Jake, his voice frantic. "Robert, I hacked into Nate's email. He's been working with a private investigator to fabricate a criminal record for you, drug trafficking, of all things. They're sending it to the DA tomorrow." Drug trafficking? The lie was so brazen it would have been laughable if it weren't so deadly. My heart pounded, the pain of their relentless campaign a vice around my chest. I opened my laptop, compiling more evidence. The fake partnership contract, Greg's forged permits, Nate's threatening voicemails. Every piece was a weapon in my arsenal. But the pain of Ethan's betrayal was a constant ache. I looked at Margaret's photo, her smile a reminder of the man I'd been strong, unyielding, worthy of respect. They'd tried to break me, but I was still standing. I texted Diane, "Leak the partnership fraud to the press tonight. Let's bury them before they can strike." As I prepared for the next battle, Sarah's chili simmered on the stove, a small act of kindness in a world gone cold. Ethan's betrayal had shattered me, but I wasn't done. Boise would see the truth, and I'd fight until my last breath to reclaim my name. The Boise night was a shroud of ice, the December wind rattling my windows as I sat in my living room. The press conference's triumph fading into a hollow ache. The exposure of Victoria's $3 million fake partnership, Greg Walsh's forged permits, and the fabricated drug trafficking accusations had turned Boise's eyes on my enemies. But the victory was tainted by Ethan's betrayal. His signature on every damning document, his silence as his wife's family tried to destroy me, was a wound that bled with every heartbeat. Margaret's photo, still in my pocket from the conference, was my only tether to hope, her strength whispering through the pain. They'd tried to erase me, but I'd fought back. Now, as I poured another bourbon, its burn a faint echo of my rage. I braced for their retaliation. They were wounded, but snakes strike hardest when cornered. My phone buzzed with a text from Evelyn Montgomery, her words raw with street-bred venom. "You're a rotting corpse, Whitaker, you slimy old dog," it read. "Think you won with your little press show? We'll make sure this town kicks you to the curb, you broke-ass nobody." The gall calling me broke after they'd siphoned millions set my blood ablaze. I wanted to call her back, to scream that her family was nothing but a pack of vipers, but I didn't. I sent the text to Diane, my lawyer, whose voice was a calm blade when she called. "They're panicking, Robert," she said. "The DA's reviewing our evidence, and the Gazette's facing a lawsuit. But they're planning something big. Stay vigilant." Before I could steel myself, a furious pounding shook my front door, loud enough to wake the neighborhood. I opened it to find Lila, her face twisted with rage, her designer coat unable to hide the street thug beneath. "You're a dead man, Whitaker, you greedy old bastard," she spat, her voice pure Boise dive bar venom. "Think you can shame us? We'll have you in a straitjacket, you washed-up loser, and we'll take every dime you've got." Her words were a chainsaw, each one shredding the fading hope I'd held for Ethan. My heart twisted, torn between the father who wanted to believe his son could still be redeemed and the man who refused to let this venomous leech break him. "Get off my property, Lila," I said, my voice a low growl, "or I'll have you arrested before you can blink." Her eyes flashed with shock, but she stepped closer, her perfume choking the air. "Ethan hates you, Whitaker. You're nothing but a bank he's done robbing." Ethan's name was a dagger, but I slammed the door, the impact echoing my resolve. Inside, my chest heaved, the pain of my son's betrayal, a raw, bleeding wound. I wanted to call him, to beg for the boy who'd once run to me for comfort, but Margaret's photo steadied me. I wasn't their pawn anymore. Then, another bombshell. An email from Karen, my accountant, marked critical. "Robert, I found something horrific," it read. "Victoria and Ethan used your personal trust fund to secure a fraudulent investment deal worth $4 million, channeled through a fake charity linked to Charles Montgomery's old bank contacts. The deal was signed yesterday. $4 million. My trust fund, meant for my retirement, twisted into their latest scam after the press conference. The betrayal was a tsunami, drowning any lingering hope for Ethan. My vision blurred with rage, the pain so raw it felt like my heart might shatter. I called Diane, my voice trembling but resolute. "File for federal charges," I said. "They're not just thieves, they're criminals." As I processed the betrayal, Sarah's gentle knock came at the back door. She carried a tray of cornbread, her eyes heavy with concern. "I saw Lila's car," she said, setting the tray down. "What's happened now?" I told her about the fake charity, my voice breaking as I admitted Ethan's role. "He's trying to erase me, Sarah," I said, my throat tight. "My own son's killing my future." Sarah's hand found mine, her warmth a lifeline. "You're more than their lies, Robert," she said, her voice trembling with empathy. "They can't take your strength." Her loyalty, alongside Tom's, Jake's, and Frank's, was a shield against the darkness. But Ethan's betrayal threatened to crush me. Then, another shock. A call from Tom, his voice tight with alarm. "Robert, I was at the diner, and Nate Carver was there, bragging to some thug about planting evidence in your company's warehouse fake drug paraphernalia to back their trafficking claims. They're moving tonight. Drug evidence? The accusation was a death sentence, threatening my freedom and my legacy. Charles and Nate weren't just after my money, they wanted me in prison." I thanked Tom, promising a weekend barbecue, and called Diane. "We need a private investigator on this," I told her. "They're framing me for crimes." As night deepened, I stood in my living room, the Boise wind howling outside, echoing the storm in my soul. Ethan's role in the $4 million scam was a wound that wouldn't heal, each lie a fresh cut. I wanted to believe he was trapped, coerced by Victoria's family, but his signature on the deal told a different story. Then, one final blow. A text from Jake, his voice frantic in a voicemail. "Robert, I found an email from Ethan to Greg Walsh. He's planning to testify against you in court, claiming you abused him as a child to bolster the competency petition. Child abuse?" The lie was so monstrous, it stole my breath. The pain of my son's betrayal, a vice around my heart. I opened my laptop, compiling more evidence. The fake charity deal, Nate's threatening voicemails, Ethan's email. Every piece was a weapon, but the pain of Ethan's lies was a constant ache. I looked at Margaret's photo, her smile a reminder of the man I'd been strong, unyielding. worthy of respect. They'd tried to break me, but I was still standing. I texted Diane, set up a sting operation with the PI, catch them planting the evidence. As I prepared for the next battle, Sarah's cornbread sat on the counter, a small act of kindness in a world gone cold. Ethan's betrayal had shattered me, but I wasn't done. Boise would see the truth, and I'd fight until my last breath to reclaim my life. The Boise night was a frozen vault, the December stars sharp against the black sky as I sat in my living room, the weight of Ethan's betrayal heavier than the bourbon in my hand. The press conference had exposed Victoria's $4 million fake charity scam, Nate's planted drug evidence, and Ethan's child abuse lie. But each victory carved a deeper wound in my heart. His signature on every fraudulent document, his willingness to let his wife's family frame me as a criminal, was a betrayal that echoed through the empty spaces where Margaret's laughter once lived. Her photo, now back on the mantle, was my only anchor, her silent strength urging me to keep fighting. They'd tried to destroy me, but the sting operation Diane had set up to catch Nate planting evidence was about to turn the tables. As I stared at the evidence piling up on my desk, forged contracts, threatening texts, Ethan's damning emails, I felt a fire ignite. They'd pushed me too far, and Boise was about to witness their downfall. My phone buzzed with a text from Charles Montgomery, his words dripping with raw, street-bred venom. "You're a pathetic old corpse, Whitaker. You slimy deadbeat," it read. "Think your little sting's gonna save you? We'll have you locked up and begging, you broke-ass fool." The audacity calling me broke after they'd stolen millions set my blood boiling. I wanted to drive to his country club and smash his smug face through a window, but I didn't. I sent the text to Diane, who was coordinating with the private investigator, Mike Torres, a grizzled ex-cop with a nose for truth. "They're moving tonight," she said over the phone, her voice sharp with urgency. "Mike's got eyes on the warehouse. We'll catch them red-handed." Before I could prepare, a violent pounding shook my back door, loud enough to rattle the dishes in my sink. I opened it to find Cassandra Lane, the Gazette reporter, her face twisted with desperation and malice. "You're a rotting nobody, Whitaker." She spat, her voice pure Boise Street grit, like she'd traded her press badge for a switchblade. "Think you can ruin us with your lies? We'll have you in a nut house, you washed up has-been, and we'll take your whole damn legacy." Her words were a sledgehammer, each one pounding the fragile hope I'd held for Ethan's soul. My heart twisted, torn between the father who wanted to believe his son wasn't lost, and the man who refused to let this conniving hack break him. "Get out, Cassandra," I said, my voice a low growl, "or I'll have you arrested for trespassing before you can write another lie." Her eyes flashed with shock, but she leaned in, her breath sour with coffee. "Ethan's done with you, Whitaker. You're nothing but a cash cow. He's tired of milking." Ethan's name was a knife, but I slammed the door, the impact echoing my resolve. Inside, my chest heaved, the pain of my son's betrayal a raw, gaping wound. I wanted to call him, to beg for the boy who'd once looked at me like I hung the moon, but Margaret's photo steadied me. I wasn't their victim anymore. Then, another bombshell, a call from Mike Torres, his voice taut with adrenaline. "Robert, we caught Nate on camera planting drug paraphernalia in your warehouse, bags of white powder, fake ledgers, the works. But there's more. Ethan was with him, holding the flashlight. Ethan, my own son, physically helping to frame me for drug trafficking. The betrayal was a tidal wave, drowning any remaining hope. My vision blurred with rage, the pain so raw it felt like my heart might shatter. I called Diane, my voice trembling but resolute. "Press charges against Ethan too," I said, the words cutting like glass. "He's not my son anymore, he's a criminal." As I processed the betrayal, Sarah's gentle knock came at the front door. She carried a thermos of hot cocoa, her eyes heavy with concern. "I saw flashing lights down the street," she said, setting the thermos down. "What's happened now?" I told her about Ethan at the warehouse, my voice breaking as I admitted his role. "He's trying to destroy me, Sarah," I said, my throat tight. "My own son's framing me for prison." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her loyalty a beacon in the storm. "You're stronger than their lies, Robert," she said, her voice trembling with empathy. "They can't take your heart." Her words were a lifeline, but Ethan's betrayal threatened to crush me. Then, another shock, a text from Frank Delgado, his voice urgent in a voicemail. "Robert, I found something at the courthouse. Victoria filed a fake restraining order against you, claiming you threatened her life. Ethan swore an affidavit supporting it." A restraining order? The lie was so monstrous it stole my breath, threatening to bar me from my own life. Charles and Victoria weren't just after my money, they wanted me silenced. I thanked Frank, promising a golf game, and called Diane. File a countersuit for perjury, I told her. They're trying to cage me. As dawn broke, I stood in my kitchen, the Boise wind howling outside, echoing the storm in my soul. Ethan's role in the warehouse sting was a wound that wouldn't heal, each lie a fresh cut. I wanted to believe he was coerced, trapped by Victoria's family. But his flashlight in that footage told a different story. Then, one final blow. An email from Jake, his voice frantic. Robert, I hacked into Greg Walsh's cloud drive. They're planning to bribe a judge to fast-track the competency hearing, using money from your stolen trust fund. Bribing a judge? The betrayal was a death knell, threatening my freedom and my legacy. My heart pounded, the pain of their relentless campaign a vice around my chest. I opened my laptop, compiling more evidence. Warehouse footage, Victoria's fake restraining order, Greg's bribe plans. Every piece was a weapon, but the pain of Ethan's betrayal was a constant ache. I looked at Margaret's photo, her smile a reminder of the man I'd been strong, unyielding, worthy of respect. They'd tried to break me, but I was still standing. I texted Diane, get the FBI involved. They're crossing into federal crimes. As I prepared for the next battle, Sarah's cocoa sat on the counter, a small act of kindness in a world gone cold. Ethan's betrayal had shattered me, but I wasn't done. Boise would see the truth, and I'd fight until my last breath to reclaim my life. The Boise dawn broke with a fragile warmth, the December light filtering through my windows, casting soft shadows across the living room where Margaret's photo stood sentinel on the mantel. The sting operation had caught Nate and Ethan planting drug evidence, the fake restraining order and bribe judge exposed. But the victory was a hollow ache in my chest. Ethan's betrayal, his role in the $4 million fake charity scam, his affidavit claiming I'd threatened Victoria, his willingness to testify to fabricated abuse had shattered the last fragments of the father I'd been. Each lie, each signature, was a nail in the coffin of the family I'd dreamed of. But as I sipped my coffee, its bitterness a faint echo of my pain, I felt Margaret's strength urging me forward. They'd tried to destroy me, but I'd risen. Today, I'd face Ethan one last time, not to save him, but to reclaim my life. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria, her words raw with street-bred venom. You're a dead old fool, Whitaker, you sniveling piece of trash, it read. Think you've won? We'll have you crying in the gutter, you broke ass has been. The audacity calling me, broke after they'd stolen millions, lit a fire in my gut. I wanted to storm their mansion and tear down every lie they'd built, but I didn't. I sent the text to Diane, my lawyer, who was preparing for the final court hearing. The FBI's involved now, she said, her voice steady as steel. Nate's in custody, and Ethan's been summoned. This ends soon, Robert. Before I could brace myself, a furious pounding shook my front door, loud enough to wake the dead. I opened it to find Charles and Evelyn Montgomery, their faces twisted with rage, their tailored clothes unable to mask the desperation beneath. You're a filthy lowlife, Whitaker, Charles roared, his voice pure Boise barroom grit. Think you can drag us down? We'll have you locked away, you washed-up nobody, and we'll take your whole damn empire. Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes venomous. Ethan's done with you, you pathetic old dog. You're nothing but a bank we're tired of robbing. Their words were a sledgehammer, each one pounding the fragile hope I'd held for my son. My heart twisted, torn between the father who wanted to believe Ethan could still be saved, and the man who refused to let these elitist vipers break him. Get off my property, I said, my voice a low growl, or I'll have you both arrested before you can call your crooked lawyer. Charles's face purpled, but he leaned in, his breath sour with whiskey. You're finished, Whitaker. Ethan's testifying against you, and Boise will spit on your grave. Ethan's name was a knife, but I slammed the door, the impact echoing my resolve. Inside, my chest heaved, the pain of my son's betrayal, a raw, gaping wound. I wanted to call him, to beg for the boy who'd once run to me for comfort, but Margaret's photo steadied me. I wasn't their victim anymore. Then, another bombshell, a call from Mike Torres, the private investigator, his voice taut with urgency. Robert, we found a hidden camera in your office planted by Greg Walsh. It's been recording your meetings, edited to make it look like you're dealing drugs. Ethan approved the setup. Ethan, my own son, wiring my sanctuary to frame me. The betrayal was a tsunami, drowning any remaining hope. My vision blurred with rage, the pain so raw it felt like my heart might shatter. I called Diane, my voice trembling but resolute. Added to the charges, I said. They're not just criminals, they're monsters. As I prepared for the hearing, Sarah's gentle knock came at the back door. She carried a plate of apple pie, her eyes heavy with empathy. "I saw the Montgomery's car," she said, setting the plate down. "What's happened now?" I told her about the camera, my voice breaking as I admitted Ethan's role. "He's trying to erase me, Sarah," I said, my throat tight. "My own son's destroying my life." Sarah's hand found mine, her warmth a lifeline. "You're stronger than their lies, Robert," she said, her voice trembling with shared pain. "They can't take your soul." Her loyalty, alongside Tom's, Jake's, and Frank's, was a shield against the darkness. But Ethan's betrayal threatened to crush me. Then, another shock. A text from Frank Delgado, his voice urgent in a voicemail. "Robert, I found a leaked email from Victoria to a city official, offering a bribe to seize your company's assets under eminent domain. Ethan's name is on the CC line." Eminent domain? The lie was a death knell, threatening to steal my life's work entirely. Charles and Victoria weren't just after my money, they wanted my legacy obliterated. I thanked Frank, promising a hunting trip, and called Diane. "File an emergency injunction," I told her. "They're trying to steal everything." At the courthouse, I faced Ethan across the room, his eyes avoiding mine, his face pale and drawn. The judge reviewed the evidence cameras, bribes, forged documents, while Victoria glared, her defiance crumbling as the FBI presented Nate's confession. Ethan stood to speak, his voice trembling. "Dad, I didn't mean..." But his words faltered under my gaze. The pain of his betrayal was a vice around my heart, but I stood tall, my voice steady. "You chose them, Ethan," I said. "You chose lies over family." The judge ruled in my favor, ordering restitution and criminal charges. Ethan's shoulders slumped, his world collapsing, but I felt no joy, only a hollow peace. As I drove home, the Boise skyline glowed with winter light, a reminder of the life I'd rebuilt. Sarah, Tom, Jake, and Frank had taught me a lesson in loyalty, a knowledge that true family is chosen, not owed. The education of this ordeal showed me that self-respect is the greatest knowledge, a lesson in standing firm against betrayal. I'd learned the knowledge of my own worth, an education in resilience that no one could take. The lesson of forgiveness was mine to give, but not to forget, a knowledge that shaped my new beginning. This education in life's harsh truths had rebuilt me, stronger than ever. If you've been gripped by this story, hit that subscribe button on RevengeX for more heart-pounding tales every day. Like and share to spread the knowledge of resilience, and drop a comment. How does this story hit you? Does it echo your own battles with betrayal? Share your heart. We're listening. Here's to health, 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 a joyful life, and peace every day. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.